My best advice for women's entrepreneurs would be just be passionate about what you do, go at it day after day, work hard at it, and you would succeed.
Try and run a business that you can push down a hill or try to push against an open door. And for us, that means trying to get away from all the noise and to really focus on where the opportunity is.
My advice to women entrepreneurs would be to actually spend time with women who are not entrepreneurs, who are like myself in the corporate setting. I think we could learn a lot from each other.
My best advice to women entrepreneurs is reframe the question to a place of yes. People are going to tell you a million reasons why something can't happen, why someone can't run a business or you can't do something. You just have to ask yourself, how can that happen?
Growth and comfort don't coexist. I'd say be prepared to get uncomfortable.
My best piece of advice for other women entrepreneurs is don't waste time being the business person you think you should be. Your instinct has a lot to answer for, so listen to it.
Just be the best you can be, and if you believe that you can, then you will.
Let's shout about it, tell your story, and ensure that together we're acting as growth heroes and inspiring the next generation of female entrepreneurs.
Continue to innovate. Innovation is the engine of growth and progress.
What's up, Steve?
Hey, Stephanie, how are you?
I'm good. Where are you today?
Well, actually, I'm actually in Florida.
Nice.
I have some work to do, but we had a relative that passed away as well.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear.
Yeah, so it's been kind of a weird kind of journey the last couple of weeks, but it's the weather's nice, so you can't complain about that. And how you been?
I'm doing great. It looks like it wants to rain, which in Texas, it's like, you never know what you're going to get when that happens, but it's been good. We had a great weekend for Easter. What did you guys do for Easter?
I just with my children, my two daughters, and I had a really good time. It was really mellow, and but that's what it's supposed to be. I think we all have to get back to what family is all about, and to we're always reminded what's going on in Ukraine, how blessed we are, and how traumatic and challenged people are overseas.
I've had to, it's interesting some of the conversations over the past just few years I've had to have with my 6-year-old, and my husband David and I say, these are things we wouldn't have had to talk about with like kids when we were little. There was different conversations that were going on, and so to talk about kids that are hurt and kids that are scared because they're not safe in their home, and we've had to have those conversations because of Ukraine and because of, trying to understand the difference between our house versus what other kids his age are dealing with. And, we want him to be aware without giving too much information, obviously. But also, we've been trying to teach him more gratitude so that he can understand, he's got it pretty good, and he can start to be a little bit open and understand that not every kid has the same experience as he does.
That's right. And I think that we start off with women entrepreneurs, and last week we had a great show, and you yourself are a woman entrepreneur. But when you do the work that you do, with like-minded people, it must be inspiring to you, but also you're connecting with so many other great people.
I love it, and I loved what they said in the beginning of just some of the reasons why. Or like the suggestions that they give to female entrepreneurs. And I think one of the big things is, believing if someone says that you can't do it, that it's not that you can't, it's that maybe that other person can't do it themselves. So instead of thinking it can't be done, how can it be done? And I have to say that there's a journey with being an entrepreneur where there's moments that it's like, well, what is going on? And then moments of just pure bliss where just things are so wonderful, and you kind of go that up and down roller coaster throughout the entire journey.
That's right. Yeah, and it's so very important right now because we all have to pivot. We've been pivoting for the last couple of years, and empowering other people as we go along. And our show, Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb, is kind of a symbol of that. There's so many podcasts out there that do tremendous things, and I feel like what we do week after week is to provide that platform for people like today's guest, Tracy Root. I mean, she's doing amazing work, and her her efforts are helping so many people.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to be able to give a platform. And that's one of the other things they said beginning, little montage there of doing things that you're passionate about and sharing your story. And I think that this platform really gives our, people, our guests, an opportunity to share their story and inspire other people to help them, guide the light to other people as well.
That's right. This is Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. We're both here every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. And today we have an outstanding guest, Tracy Root. But the purpose of the show is really to empower others and to provide that platform. And Stephanie, you have this book that's been out there for a while now. Why don't you share with our new viewers what the book is all about?
Sure. I have a book and a workbook called Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt. The book is all about overcoming unhealthy relationships. It's my personal private story of what I had to overcome to create my best life, and shares the stories of other people who are also able to overcome really terrible toxic relationships and actually create really healthy, beautiful ones. And so, it's a great book to have to start if you're looking to get inspired, if you're still stuck in that toxic relationship and you're feeling kind of run down and feeling like maybe it's not possible for you. There's also some really great tools and information in that book. And then when you're ready to start taking some steps, then I definitely recommend getting the workbook so that you can start taking action on moving forward for yourself and creating your own best life.
That's right. And how can people get a hold of that book if they don't contact you directly?
Sure. Well, you can always contact me at, find me on Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt. It's my website. I also have a private Facebook group called Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt, Tools to Heal and Thrive for Successful Women. We do great content in there twice a week. So definitely that. But if you want to just get the book and the workbook, grab them on Amazon. So they'll get to you in a few days. And, I always get some really great feedback when people purchase the book and they start reading it. Most of them say they can't put it down. And it's like in a day, they're done with the first book.
Right. And predominantly your work that you do are mostly virtual now, right?
It's all virtual. That was actually my plan when I started this. Was I used to be a teacher. I taught for 17 years. And I said, there's something else calling me, so again, finding that passion and then doing it. There's something else calling me to do more. I want to teach, but I want to teach at a different space. And so now I get to teach people from all over the world. We do mostly work with women, but we work with men as well. And to just really give them the tools and support that most of them have never had. And then they get to, I'm always amazed. I kind of teared up a little bit on Monday with my coaching group because the stories that these women have experienced, what they've shared with us, what they've never shared with anybody else. And, to hear their stories and know how hard it's been to get to where they are now. I am just constantly amazed. And I'm sure you notice that too in your work when you say.
No doubt. Our work is a 501c3. It's a nonprofit program called Chapters Community Support Services. And basically, it's been around for a while to provide a platform and help families and individuals in transition from different places. It could be from high school to college, like during the pandemic. Some of the seniors have lost their senior year, half of their senior year. So a lot of the young people had challenges in transitioning from high school to college or things that they were doing afterwards and establishing relationships. We actually just started a young adult support group a couple of weeks ago, and it's live. I feel, the virtual is very, very important, but sometimes the connection of working socialization and the group that we do is a support group. We look at vocational goals, but we're also trying to break that anxiety or difficulty in establishing healthy relationships for young people. So when they're around, we're talking, but it's like a rec kind of group. It's a healing kind of group, and it gives them an opportunity to share and to learn from other people their age. So we've had like 8 or 9 people attend these groups every Saturday. And what we do, we meet, we talk, and then we play some games a little bit and planning different activities in the future. So I feel that virtual is very, very important, but also we have to keep that balance in the work that I do. To keep that balance and the connection with people one-on-one as well.
Sure. Well, my son just recently went back to kindergarten. We had been homeschooling for all this time. And so he just went back. And yesterday he came back telling us that basically he was being bullied. And so, there was two kids. One of them is the neighbor. She's like 2 doors down. And another kid in the class. And it was like the same day they both pushed and kicked him and did like, kindergarten stuff. But it was just kind of that thing of that some of it. And, my son's not perfect. But it was a great opportunity to have a conversation with him about like, well, what happened before? Why do you think they were frustrated with you? It's not okay for them to have behaved that way. But one of them, especially the neighbor, like they're good friends, maybe it's worth talking about and figuring out what happened beforehand. And so you can't have that kind of dynamic and that kind of learning when you're doing it online. So this is really, when he was little and before the pandemic started, he was in regular pre-K, whatever it was considered there. But there's a lot of learning that takes place simply from kids interacting with each other. And that was a great example of social interaction.
Right. No doubt. No doubt. Well, we have an amazing guest that's coming on, Tracy Root. And before she comes on, there's another video we want to pop in there. Again, it's to support and to understand what women entrepreneurs are all about. So let's check out this little video before we bring in Tracy.
It's the idea, not that you don't love other people and you don't care about other people, but you have to care less about what they think of you in that moment of failure. There's always going to be a naysayer. There's always going to be someone to point out a mistake, and that happens to me every single day.
It hurt to be told I was silly, stupid, naive, pick your adjective. But I also knew that there was great truth in what we were trying to do.
People didn't want to get on board. People didn't want to support. People wanted to say, oh, that's silly, it's niche, it's never gonna work, she's just this, she's an opportunist, every word in the book.
And the time it feels crushing and it feels defeating and you're mad at the world and you're mad at people who didn't support you and then now as I sit in front of you, I reflect and I'm like, they're sort of blips to me now. They feel like a big deal at the time, but they're not.
Don't sweat the haters, because hate is gonna hate. And between social media and Glassdoor and all these things that you can read, now I think just staying focused on the long term and the vision and the mission and knowing that in my heart and in my head, I am making decisions that I think are right for this company and the people around me that are running it, and just staying true to that.
100% do not worry your young life away. You are going to work for the rest of your life. You cannot plan it all out. Everything is going to be okay.
Don't mourn the breakups for too long. When I think about how much time I spent sitting on a friend's couch at a friend's table talking about the breakup and how sad I was, I could have read more books. I could have written a book.
Try to hold on. That if you want to step out of the workforce, that's clearly a personal decision. But try not to step out because you are temporarily tired. If you can sort of make it through that stretch, that it gets better sooner than you think it does.
Slow down. But it's so hard because you're not going to do it. I can't imagine anybody would, but breathe. Enjoy it.
I would say do everything exactly the same that you're doing, because one day you're going to be really happy you did it all this way. I just wish you didn't have to freak out about it so much along the way, but that's probably what'll make you who you are, so just go ahead and freak out on the you at 40.
What do you think, Sam?
I liked Drew Barrymore. Just go ahead and freak out. I'll meet you at 40. That was perfect.
That is perfect. That is perfect. And we have a perfect guest. You want to introduce her for us?
Sure. We have Tracy Root coming on to speak to us. We're going to talk about being bold and living your best life in business. So I'm excited for her to come on and share her story. So why don't we bring her on?
All right.
Hi, what's up, Tracy?
Hi, Tracy.
Great to see you too. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
You're in nice sunny you're in nice sunny California, huh?
I am. Hopefully I don't have too much crazy glare. I was noting how we have Florida and Texas and California. We are all across the country today.
and our producers from New York, Carmine, is doing
Perfect.
great. So,
We got the whole. We can do the whole circle.
We got
Oh,
everything
need someone
covered.
from like Montana or something to round us out.
So Tracy, first of all, thank you for joining us here today, and you do such outstanding work. Talk about the pandemic and how it was for you and the work that you've done. Was it more challenging, or did you find it more encouraging to help others during that time?
You know, the pandemic was huge, crazy, hard, amazing. It was all the things, right? And we're not done, so it still is all those things. I began a brand new business, a new leg of my business entrepreneurial life 5 months before the pandemic hit. We opened an event space here in downtown Santa Cruz, right in the middle of everything. Great space, right near all the restaurants, 2 miles from the beach or a mile from the beach. And we were going to be helping others and, of course, ourselves do in-person events. You were talking earlier, Steve, about in-person connection and building community and support. And I really wanted to do that here in town. It was difficult to find spaces. Real estate in California, as everyone on the planet knows, is very difficult to acquire. It's very expensive. And when it exists and a place, might support having workshops and things like that, it's very hard to find because they're very busy. So I decided, with a background in interior design and project management from my corporate life, I decided to open a space. And of course, 5 months after we opened, we had to turn off the lights and close the doors. We took that opportunity to figure out how to help our in-person event hosts become successful online. They may or may not have embraced the online space beforehand, but I had many years of experience there and decided that whatever was going to happen ahead of us, whether it was going to be 3 weeks or 3 months, or at this point, 3 years before everything really kind of got back, I was going to help them be successful. And so that's what we've done. We've created a whole new community that's based on supporting online events.
So Tracy, when that happened at first, the first reaction, did you think, oh my goodness, what is going to happen to all the hard work that I've done and everything we've laid out? Was that your first reaction, or you just kind of shifted right away?
Well, what's funny is we had having been open for 5 months, it had been going very well. And I was so busy. Frankly, I was totally overloaded. And I was really kind of happy to have the opportunity to take a breath and reassess what we were going to do as far as finding people to help. I needed to hire someone to kind of manage the space. I couldn't do everything 24/7. There was too much to do. At first, I thought it was giving me that kind of breathing room to reassess how are we going to reopen in the few weeks we thought we were going to be closed. And of course, soon thereafter, we realized that wasn't going to be the case. But my initial thought was, oh, thank God I don't have to worry about tomorrow. And a couple of weeks later, I was changed, obviously, to, okay, well, we're not going to be actually going back anytime soon. So how can we reimagine what we're doing? And ultimately, it came down to the goal was always to build community. So we had to build community wherever we could make it, which was on Zoom, basically.
Oh yeah. I was actually just writing myself a note that I have to do some writings for some of the summits that I'm going to be on. There's been so many summits. There's so many things going on lately, which is great because then I don't ever have to leave. I can wear my pajamas, on the from the bottom down.
I may or may not be wearing my slippers right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Absolutely. I took the idea of having a space to hold in-person events, and I created not only a community of people that I'm supporting, but I also created basically a virtual space, and we host summits for our members as well. So we created a membership for women entrepreneurs. Our members are doing their own events online, and we help them with promotion, visibility, social media, email, opportunities for video, anything we can connect them with as far as speaking. And we also host summits. The first year, starting in March, we just did one that year in 2020. We did 2 last year in 2021. And this year, we're actually doing 6 because we found it so valuable. And we reach people all around the world. Our members are all across the country, and it's a great way to just tie everybody together and help support everyone to continue to move forward.
Now, what got you so passionate? Now, I understand the pandemic kind of motivated this, this next phase, but what got you so interested in community and maybe even starting to be an entrepreneur to begin with?
Yeah, well, I never really knew way back when that community is what I was looking for. I actually was very kind of self-conscious. This was before I began coaching. I've been coaching for about 10 years. And before that, I was in corporate America. I grew up in Silicon Valley, grew up in Cupertino, home of Apple Computer. And I went to college and worked in high tech, basically, as a project manager. What was always fun about that job is I got to work with a lot of people. I managed space and did, furniture and all those kinds of things in big corporate offices. And so I was always connected to a lot of people. I didn't make the connection that that was my community at the time. But later, as I started going into the coaching world and doing more kind of personal and professional development, and the idea of community supporting, like the idea of people supporting people, I used to be very difficult to ask for help. I think a lot of women fall in that category, that asking for help and accepting help is very challenging. We feel like we have to do it all by ourselves. And maybe that's just a California corporate America thing, but I don't think it is. I think it's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's actually one of the biggest hurdles I have to overcome when working with clients, because I work with successful women. So a lot of the times it's like, I get you're successful and you think you can figure it out on your own, but how many years have you been figuring it out on your own, and how much longer do you want to wait, until you actually get help?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is we often can do it ourselves, but how long is it going to take, and how much energy are we going to spend doing something that isn't our expertise, isn't our passion, where maybe if it's someone else's passion, they could do it in a third of the time, and we can actually spend the time doing the things that are our passion, helping people in our unique way, as opposed to also doing your email funnels, and in the case of an in-person space, rearranging tables and chairs and, restocking the coffee. So, asking for help, finding the right people to help you, and building a community around that is, I found, like the most important thing in business to me. You have to have a vision, you have to know where you want to go, but if you don't have other people helping you get there and getting there together, then you're probably never going to make it.
And I love that too, because it's you get to pick the best brains of people that know better than you, because we can't know everything.
Right.
So, it's like,
we're all super smart.
Yeah. You can be super smart, but it doesn't mean that you know everything. There's other people that know more for you in certain areas, and then you get those experts to come, and then you got a super team.
And then we get to spend our time doing the thing that really fulfills us. Not only that we can do and we know how to do and we're good at, but do we really want to be doing that? My coach, been working with my coach Katerina for many years, and she says to me, what do you want to be known for? And if you aren't doing that, find someone to do it, because they probably want to be known for that, while you can be known for what's special to you. I don't need to be known for my graphic design, even though I enjoy it. It's not the thing that I want to be known for, but I know other people who do, and I can hire them. They're better at it, they're faster at it, and it's probably all going to be better on both sides, no matter what.
Hey, Tracy, talk about your team and the people behind the scenes or in the front that are working with you, because it's all about empowerment. I mean, you're empowering others, but also within your team as well. How do you share that vision and to get that brand out there to the masses?
Well, one of the things, as I mentioned, we're creating these summits. And while the people are members of our Gather community, we're connected as a group of women, and on the one hand, on the other hand, they're my clients. And on the third hand, we leverage each other every time we're together, right? So if it's a speaking summit, we're referencing each other, we're supporting each other, we're highlighting each other. And all of that connection helps all of us. I also have people, like I mentioned, my coach, right, who helps me strategize and get past my own blocks. I do the same for my clients. I have administrative and like online technology support that I could not make those events happen without them. And so really it's a synergy of all of the things working together. It's the only way for something to grow. And I was thinking earlier, as you were talking about the gratitude and empowering all of these young people that you're talking about, Steve, that the platform that you're offering with the show and all of those things are giving us voices, but it's also empowering us to have a bigger vision, not only for ourselves, but for the people around us. And then we have that for them. They have that in turn for us, and we all get to grow.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And I think there's two things I like to key up in the work that I do, and it seems like Stephanie and maybe you do too, Tracy, is to establish that community, maintain and establish and nurture that community wherever that is. And also the meaning of family, and make sure family values and family efforts are being done first, because when that occurs, then you can go outside the family to help others as well. So I think teaching young people the concept of a true family values, but also establishing a community, whatever that means, virtual or in person. I think that's so very important. It seems like that's what you're doing.
Well, and I love, where we've gotten to so far. Steve, you were talking about your kids who are older, clearly. Stephanie, you're talking about your little 6-year-old. Mine are 13 and 15. I'm in the middle. Mm-hmm. And thinking about, the journey that they've all been on, and the idea of where we are and what we do directly affects them no matter what their age. I started coaching 10 years ago because I wanted to create my own ability to be involved in their life. In fact, my son, who at the time was in first grade, had some bullying things going on at his school. So what you were talking about, Stephanie, really was resonating to my own experience and how to handle all of that. Now, of course, that was 9 years ago for me. So our tools and everything have changed and grown and evolved over time, but the bases are all the same. And to know that what we do and how we connect to others in the world, in our community, how that affects not only us and them, but that second level, which might be our spouses or our children, their friends, like all of those ripples in the pond and how they all overlap. I often talk about like the overlapping and being that little spot in the Venn diagram where like everything overlays. It's important to recognize that no matter what we do, we're affecting that, and to do our very best in order to make that great for everyone that it touches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what a service it is to ourselves and to others when we are, like you said, living our own passion, when we are doing the thing that we're good at, that we want to be known as.
Yes.
We get to help inspire others to also be their best version of themselves. And then that ripple effect becomes huge. Too often people are trying to do all the things, or they're kind of, halving it. They're not really doing as much as they possibly could because they're stressed out, because of family, because of work, because of health reasons, whatever it is. They're not really living their best. And it's kind of a disservice to everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, you used the phrase, being the best version of yourself. When I first started coaching a decade ago, I had never experienced the idea of doing like personal development, reading books, learning about the masters of leadership and all of that. But the very first personal development book that I read was by Matthew Kelly, called The Rhythm of Life. And I can still, and I don't read, I listen. It's always audible. Forget the focus. But I remember very clearly walking down my own street with my headphones in my ear, listening to him talk. He's Australian, so he's got a great accent, saying about being the best version of yourself in his cool accent. I'll never forget it, because it was the first light bulb moment of, wow, just listening to this book is changing my life. Imagine what it'll be like to actually be able to do that for someone else, because I had just started coaching. So quite amazing to know, again, that the little steps that we take are going to affect other people. I'm sure that he, when he wrote that book many years ago, thought about the fact that someday he'll touch some person in California, and I'll hear the words, and my life will move forward from there, being a little bit different. And
you never know. You never know who you're going to affect either.
No.
I mean, I taught for 17 years, and I taught middle school and high school, and so I would be amazed that I'd have kids that were in middle school, like 6th and 8th grade, and then they'd come to me as seniors, and they would. I'm thinking of one kid in particular where she said, the only reason why I came to school is to see you.
Yep.
And I teared up because she didn't stand out. There was nothing about her that was like, I could tell that she came to school for me. I knew none of that. Yeah. And so I was and she even continued on because I was the person that she looked forward to seeing. And I was like, wow, that was such a great example of someone I didn't know, I wasn't aware. She wasn't on my radar. And here I was affecting her so profoundly.
Yep.
And what we get to do here with this online space, there are so many people that are watching even right now that we have no awareness of, that are being really affected in a positive way.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I love teaching about being bold, because it's a very simple concept. Everyone has an idea of what bold means to them. It might mean stepping out their comfort zone. It might mean speaking in public. It might mean, standing up for what you believe, but it means something different for every person. And the education and the inspiration that comes from talking about being bold and the different ways you can move in a more bold way in your life, it's inspiration. But as soon as they take that action, that's when those things really start to change for them and for the people around them. And like you said, you never know 10 years later what that little change, that ripple in the pond, is going to affect down the road. So it can be quite an impact.
Steve, I'm sure you see that all the time in what you do.
Yeah, no doubt. I was going to ask you, Tracy, how do you establish rapport with your clients initially? Because I would imagine they're coming to you in different walks of life, and I would imagine fear is one of the things they're trying to overcome to take that next step. So how do you establish rapport with the folks that you work with?
Well, I mean, I think I would say, the easy answer is just striking up conversations, right? I learned a long time ago, I started my business very much on social media. I was actually quite afraid of having conversations. I was one of those, like, the phone weighs a million pounds kind of people. This is, again, about 10 years ago. And I did a lot on social media. And I'm a pretty good writer. I love taking pictures, and I'm not afraid to post about myself. So I was able to build some influence for other people to, with social media, right? They think they know you if you're being visible. So that is a great starting place. But what's next? An actual relationship, actual conversation. So I was taught really early on to just be social on social media and to make sure you're not using it as some sort of, smarmy sales tool type of thing. So the way to really build that rapport is to just be social, be friendly, say hi. I also love networking to the point where it's hard to resist sometimes spending too much time networking. But I really love to leverage that time to meet people and to try to make some sort of personal connection right away so that we can continue to build a friendship out of that. And, people aren't going to work with you unless they can trust you. Mm-hmm. And I think that because I start in a very friendly, easygoing kind of space, that people trust me pretty quickly. And it just happens, when you're friendly, people want to be friends.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And we started this show off with showing some videos with entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And overcoming fear is probably one of those things, or criticism from others, the naysayers out there. Is that something you tackle on with the clients that you have?
Sure. Well, I think most people, we talked about being afraid to ask for help. That's only one area where many of us are fearful. And sometimes people might be afraid to verbalize it as fear, but then they just call it worry, or maybe they're concerned, or maybe it's just not something that they can do, right? They don't call it fear, but they're just like, I can't do that. Not that they're afraid, but that it's not them, right? So it's not in their identity. And, when we're talking about being bold, we really want to just help people look. It's not about being someone that you're not. It's about knowing what you want, allowing yourself to be open to what's possible, and then taking just the smallest step in that direction. It doesn't have to be 0 to 1,000,000 in the first step. It just has to be 0 to 1. And so that really helps to alleviate a lot of those fear-based obstacles, because taking a little tiny step, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're not going to die. You're not going to, maybe you'd be like, oh my gosh, that didn't go the way I planned, right? But that's a big part of what I bring to the table too, is helping people realize that much of our life is not the way we necessarily planned. No, none of us thought we were going to be in a global pandemic for the last 2 years, right? So when things are unexpected, what can we do? Just take a step. And see how it goes. And if it doesn't go the way you think, okay, well, maybe recalibrate and take a step in a slightly different direction, but still going after what it is that you want.
I think that's really hard for the perfectionists. I work with a lot of perfectionists.
Yes, I'm a recovering perfectionist right here. Because there is no way to be perfect. It's impossible. So why do we try? Right? Why are so many of us stuck on being perfect when perfect is actually not possible?
Well, and we also, it keeps us frozen, right? So it's like, well, I'm not going to do it unless I'm perfect. Well, guess what? It's not going to be perfect when you start anyway. You just got to I always joke around, you just got to, and my clients are like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, you just do it. And you're sloppy and it kind of looks a little and feels a little silly and whatever. And then you do it again and it's not so bleh.
Well, really, people don't want perfect.
No.
Right? All of the discussion, not so much today, but a couple of years back with like the perfect Instagram grid and all of those kinds of things, it's so fake. They want it for themselves because they think that's what's required, but they don't want it from anyone else because they don't want to deal with fake people. It doesn't make sense at all, right? We want imperfect others, yet we want a perfect self. So let's just all be imperfect and not worry about that perfection thing.
I always say, let your weirdo light shine. Because we're all a bunch of weirdos. So just there we go. There's my flag. There's the light. Here you go. And then those people will be attracted to you. And that's who you want anyway. You want more people to see who you are genuinely without trying to be someone that you're not.
Yep. When I was in corporate, I very much put on a corporate persona. I did not have pink hair. I was not, I was still 6 feet tall. So I definitely I was a figure to be seen, but I had to very intentionally quiet myself. In fact, I had a boss, who was a client, but kind of a boss, who told me after a phone call where apparently I was very animated, he came over and said, Tracy, you are too loud. You need to be more quiet. And I went, I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to show up in that office, which was his office. I was a consultant. I didn't want to show up as someone who was trying to be the center of attention. I was just there to do my job, be professional, and I wanted to be respected. So I took a little Post-it note and I wrote, be quiet, and I stuck it on my monitor, right where I would see it whenever I was on the phone, looking at my spreadsheets, talking with my vendors. And it helped. It helped me remember that there was a certain way that I was expected to behave and to show up in the corporate setting in order to be accepted and therefore to be successful. When I went off to my next client, I took my little Post-it with me and I started in that place when I got there. And I was very well received and I was successful and admired and all of those things. And later on, I realized that I didn't need the sign anymore because I had changed at work to be the person that they told me I needed to be in order to be successful. Thankfully, left corporate America a few years later and was able to become my real self again, which clearly is not quiet or demure, but it's a journey. Like you were saying about the roller coaster and the journey earlier before we started, it takes time, and we have to know a little bit about why we got there, but definitely have to know where we're going, and that's important.
That's very important. This says kick on healthy relationships to the curb. That's Stephanie McPhail, Steve Vaccaro. That's our wonderful guest, Tracy Root, who's doing amazing work with so many people. You've used the word success a couple of times now. How do you measure success with your clients, and how do they in turn become successful?
Well, success is one of those words that can mean something different for everyone. I mean, it might mean, I don't know if anyone's ever done studies on like how many categories we talk about success, but success is really fulfillment in almost every case. It might mean financial success. It might mean building your business to a certain place. Obviously, I work with entrepreneurs, so we're focusing on building and scaling and things like that. It might also mean having a thriving family, relationships, things like that. So success really can be defined in many, many ways. But with my clients who I'm working with to help to be more bold in their business, to grow their sales, we can talk financial or we can talk fulfillment. And financial will equate then to clients and rates and bank accounts and all those things. But fulfillment is a little more nebulous, a little esoteric, using some big words here. It's a little more fuzzy. And so that gets defined for each person. So when I'm talking with a client about setting a goal, we want to be really clear about what exactly they're trying to get. Are they trying to get a financial situation? Are they trying to get, a client-based situation? Do they want to have an event that has this, many people at it? It's very specific. And that's really important when you're looking at any kind of growth in business, to have a specific vision of what you want. In fact, when I'm talking about being bold, the first step is to build that vision, because if you don't know where you're going, you'll never get there and therefore never have success. So building that vision is probably that first step in defining success in the first place.
That's right.
I think that's what I think about manifesting, is that, my husband, David, always says like, you're a really good manifester. I said, but it's not that. It's that I have a really clear vision of what I want. And then I take massive action and steps to get to that place that it's already existing in my mind. I just have to now make it happen.
Yeah. And I used to work with a coach many, many years ago who talked about the difference between a vision and a fantasy. Right? The idea of this dream that you have that you haven't defined, but man, it looks pretty, but you're not clear enough on really what that is. It's just a view, as opposed to it's a view of the lake in this location, like all of those specifics, those details. When I'm working on goal setting, I use SMART goals, but I have adjusted them a little bit in my own little fancy Tracy Root way that helps them to get so clear that it's less of it's less, what's the word? It's not an impressionist painting, right? This is realist. You're really clear on what it is so that you can actually step in that direction instead of just kind of in that zone.
And I feel like fantasy too is not like people just aren't taking action on it. So they don't have clarity. Yeah, they don't have clarity, and then they're not doing anything about it. So you can keep dreaming about it, and whatever. It's not real because they're not doing anything to make it real. I have a lot of friends that are like, "Oh, I'd start a business. I would, so I want to do this and that." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Let me know if you need any help, or if I can give you any suggestions from what I've learned." And then I reach out a few months later, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm still thinking about it." I'm like, "Well, when you're ready to start doing something, let me know." Right. Right now you're just really talking about it. You're not really doing anything.
Right. Well, building that vision is only the first step. And you talked earlier about the similar thing about being on that roller coaster and you're kind of learning what you need to know, but then taking that massive action step, that first step. I do a lot of speaking, and a lot of the speaking ends up being either educational or inspirational. But what it's lacking, what you can't do in a talk, is helping that person take that first step. And that's why coaching, right? That's why programs, that's why working together, because listening to a talk isn't going to get you in action, but it might be the light bulb that turns on so that you can see the person that you need to request support from so that you can take that action.
And Tracy, what's the most challenging aspect of what you do at this point in time and rewarding?
Most challenging, so when I started coaching 10 years ago, I was working in the health and wellness space. And that is the kind of area I find that people's dreams change a lot, often, because there's a lot of effort and it's a never ending process to work on your health, to work on your fitness, to work on, your having better eating habits or trying to get more sleep or all those kinds of things. So I ended up working with a lot of people who didn't understand the value of coaching. So I think now that I work with more entrepreneurs, the biggest challenge is staying consistent for all of us, staying consistent to get to where we're going, right? The clients that I'm working with have lots of great ideas. Me included, right? I've got lots of great ideas. Staying consistent on the path to the goal that we've set is probably the biggest challenge. It's the biggest challenge that I have, why I work with a coach to keep me on track. And it's the same reason why people work with me, is to help them stay on the path that gets them where they want to go and not get distracted by other bright, shiny objects and, allowing yourself to get distracted, by other bright, shiny objects and other big ideas, because we're all full of big ideas.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Someone just asked how you get most clear on your goals.
Yeah, well, I thank you, Allie, for the question. For me, it's about writing them down, right? I have a framework. Like I mentioned, I use the SMART goals framework, but I have tweaked it a little bit to really be more supportive of getting in that action space and not in the should space. So writing them down and reviewing them on a regular basis and working with my coach on what my goals are or working with my clients' goals. Because we can't, like we talked about getting support, we can't do everything ourselves. And if we just are thinking of things, again, it's just kind of out there in the ether. We've got to write them down. We've got to track them. We've got to pay attention to them, because if we don't, we're going to go off on a tangent somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And time goes by. Time's this weird thing, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to do that later. And then it's like 6 months have gone by and nothing has actually happened. So we, have the time frame, write it down. When am I going to do this by? That's really helpful.
Can you even believe that it's already past the middle of April? I mean, before we know it, the year will be over.
I know.
Over. And if we're not paying attention, where will it have gone?
I know. The other day, a couple of weeks ago on the show, I said, "So what are your goals for 2022?" And I forgot it's already April.
We're like almost halfway through. Like May is coming up really soon.
2022, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It's crazy, and because we were looking at Q2 goals a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's
now you're in it.
It's only 3 months and a quarter. Like, how long do we
right.
think this is going to last? And the pandemic is part of that. Our whole sense of time, I think, has really gone kind of whack because of it. Because and it's not something that's going to go back. Nothing's really going to go back, right? Nothing goes back to the way it was ever. We're always moving forward.
Right.
But it's, we have to stay paying attention.
And I think the pandemic has taught us, people, like, you have to pivot. It's not talking about it like we're talking about today. It's actually pivoting, getting that vision and doing it. I mean, it's a two-step process. And sometimes people get hung up in the first step and there's so many distractions. To get to that second step, it could be a toxic relationship. It could be finances. It could be different problems. But the goal is to transition from that vision to taking action quicker.
Right. And, and Allie, I just saw where I can see the questions.
Yeah.
Allie said, how do I begin to take action? And it's true. The answer is you just start, right? And you have to just decide where you're going and take a step.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you stay in action is by having support, by having someone who's going to help you stay accountable to yourself. Not keep you accountable, but help you stay accountable to yourself, which is a really important distinction. I have someone who is a future client who was asking me a question the other day about, I need someone to meet with 3 times a week to help me stay accountable. And I was like, I don't know if I know anyone who has a program or a structure that's like, we're going to meet 3 times a week to keep you accountable. But what you do is, what I would do as a coach for that person, and hopefully will, is to help them understand that they need to be their own best coach and keep themselves accountable and decide that the plan that they've decided to go on, the path that they've decided to go on, is the path for them, and therefore they're ready to take that next step. I think it's that questioning of whether or not this is right that keeps us from going. And the bottom line is, we're never going to know until you take it. And then you can start figuring it out. It's my pleasure, Allie.
And I think I'm going to just add to that too, because I get that question a lot. And I think it's about making the priorities. So, because we look very holistically at what our clients are dealing with. And so physical fitness, physical health is one of them. And so they'll say, well, I don't have time to work out. Well, do you have 5 minutes? Do you have 10 minutes? Can you get up 5 minutes earlier? Can you, on your way back or on your lunch break, take a 10-minute walk? We make time for what is important to us.
Absolutely.
So we have to put a priority list. And I said to one of my clients this morning, I said, I can't do any of the things that I do if I'm not healthy. If I'm sick and I'm laying down, I'm not doing anything. So for me, my health goes along with my mental health. That is a priority. I'm going to make that a priority for me so that I can do all the great things I do for other people. 100%. So, what are you going to do? What's your priority? Is it, your health? Is it your business? Is it your family? And kind of put those in levels of like, okay, where am I going to put all those and where am I going to make time to make them a priority?
Well, and that goes back to having that vision of what it is that you want and knowing what it's going to take to get you there. And, you do want to make sure that you're looking at all of the aspects of your life in order to reach whatever this specific goal is that you're talking about. We do thrive best if we have business goals, relationship goals, health goals, all of those different kinds kind of all going at the same time. And we do need to be able to not overextend our thought process, but be able to see how we can actually act in each category consistently in order to get what we want. Absolutely.
Well, we're just about out of time. We did get to the root of the matter, though. You know what I did there? But anyway, how can people get a hold of you, Tracy?
Yeah, so I spend a lot of time on Facebook and LinkedIn. You can find me there, both places for sure. I know my links are below. And of course, I've got newsletters, all those kinds of things. So if you find me either on Facebook, my personal, profile, I'll take your friend request. I still got another, I think, 300 or so open slots there before I ran out of room. But we have a great Facebook group that's for the Gather community. That's a fun place to hang out. I love spending time on LinkedIn because that's like where my old corporate life still lands. And so I've got lots of friends over there. So love to work with people at either of those places. And we do have, like I said, we've got summits coming up and there's always workshops and all kinds of different things to participate in that are live and interactive and fun. So we'd love to have everyone there.
Awesome.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much, Tracy, for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much, Steve and Stephanie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy Root, amazing person that's changing the world each and every day. Another outstanding guest.
Yeah. And I love, being bold. It's one of the things we kind of refer to without actually saying it, but go out there and live out loud. There's no reason to, diminish yourself and to quiet yourself down and to, not be the true you. I mean, it's a disservice to everyone not to be the real you.
That's right. We have a bold person we're going to bring on, Danny Benson. I'm proud of you, sis. Her show is right after our show here. And Danny, how are you doing today?
Hey, guys. How are you, Steph? How are you, Steve?
What's up, Danny?
Well today.
How are you?
What a great show this was. I was like writing down notes of things that I need to do for myself. Because I definitely need someone accountable sometimes, especially when I'm trying to lose weight. I'll eat the munchies and I'm like, okay, Who do I call to tell me not to eat the munchies?
Well, Stephanie, she's very good at, getting you off the ledge.
But the next show was about mommypreneurs. Because of COVID, there was so many mommypreneurs that developed because a lot of moms had to stay home and homeschool their kids. So a lot of moms came up with new businesses during COVID. So my next guest is called the Pudding Lady. She makes this amazing banana pudding and she spread it into other flavors. So I'm so excited to have her on the show. So hopefully she could drop some gems about how she started her business.
And can we taste it? Like, is it Taste-O-Vision? Like, she's gonna spoon feed us?
You know what? I will freeze it, Steph. I will freeze it, and I will overnight it to you. Yes. So you will get it before the formal.
Yes.
I know where you live. I'm just going to come to your house and get it.
Come, Steve. You're invited anytime. Come.
Well, we can't wait for your show.
Everyone, happy holidays. I know it's spring break. The kids are out. So, happy holidays to everybody.
God bless. Have a great show tonight, Danny.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thank you. Danny Benson, I'm proud of you, sis. Right after the show. Stephanie, thank you so very much for everything that you do and together what we do. We've only done one show live together, and the rest has been virtual for the last 2.5 years. So we pivoted in a big time way.
Yep. And you never know. I might be visiting New York at some point. So maybe we can do a live something when I'm coming to visit the old country.
That's right. The old country. Okay, now it's the old country. All right, Steph. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
All right.